In today's lecture, we're going to be looking at stasis theory, a four-question pre-writing process developed in the ancient West, Greece and Rome specifically. Now, this stasis theory was something created to help people, specifically students, understand how the decision-making process is made and how it functions, how we move through it. Essentially, the idea is that in order to achieve stasis, essentially in order for the two parties to understand each other, you first have to establish what the facts are, the meaning or nature of the issue, the seriousness of the issue, and then finally what you're going to do about it, the plan of action. Now, the name for these four parts are actually conjecture, definition, quality, and policy, and that's how we'll be referring to them from now on. But their idea is that you first have to understand what exactly is going on, what it means, what its implications are, how it affects people on a moral and ethical level, and then finally what can be done to fix the issue. Now, the reason we're looking at stasis theory is because we no longer necessarily think of stasis as something that an audience and the writer need to achieve together, but typically, instead, authors use one part of the stasis theory as the purpose of their argument. In other words, they're trying to argue that this is what happened, these are the facts. Or they're trying to argue that this is what the problem is, not some other thing. Or they'll try to argue that this is why the problem matters and this is why we should care about it. Or they'll argue this is what needs to be done in order to resolve the issue. So as we are looking at and examining others' work, it's important that we ask ourselves, what kind of argument is this person? Not only what kind of argument in the sense of, are they making a Tolman argument, or are they making an Aristotelian or classical argument, but more, what is the purpose and the aim of their argument? Are they arguing for facts? Are they arguing for definition? Are they arguing for seriousness? Are they arguing about what we need to do? So there are a few things that we can do to help us figure out what kind of argument it is that they're making. Essentially, we have questions that we ask ourselves as we're reading that help us better understand if the person is making a conjecture argument, a definition argument, quality argument, or policy. So for example, let's say that Tom is making an argument about the reality of climate change. He is arguing that as CO2 levels have risen and as emissions have become more and more common as we continue to industrialize, that this has inevitably led to climate change. We ask ourselves, okay, so is he saying this is a conjecture, or is he trying to define climate change, or is he trying to tell us that climate change is bad, or is he trying to say that climate change needs to stop and we need to do something about it? We ask ourselves, okay, what are the facts? How did it begin? What are its causes? What changed to create the problem or issue? Right? So by using this, we can look at this example and see pretty easily that that was definitely a conjecture issue. He is trying to establish that climate change is a thing that is happening. Something did happen. It's climate change. It's rise in CO2 levels. It's rise in acidity in the ocean, those kinds of things. If I were to instead make, let's say, a quality issue about climate change, we would talk about the goodness or badness of the thing, who it affects and what happens if we don't do anything. So in that argument, Charlie might instead say something like, climate change is real and it is destroying our environment and it is going to affect every human being on the earth as well as all plant and animal life. That is very much talking about the seriousness, who is being affected, and the badness of the thing. So in the next portion, we're going to be looking a little bit more at how we can use the word choices and the framing of an argument, especially in terms of topic sentences, thesis statements, primary claims, conclusions, that sort of thing. How to know what an author is trying to say and how we know that that is what they're trying to say. All right, so that's it for this lecture, and we'll see you next time.